feels like the time is right for me to make an expression. Oh, I love you, I need you, I don't want to leave you guessing. So, will you be my friend? Will you stand by me till the end?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome inside my real kitchen, where in today's episode we're going to make a rosemary and garlic wheat sourdough bread. Can't wait. One key thing to know about sourdough bread is that it doesn't take that many ingredients and it doesn't take that many techniques. It just takes a lot of time. So the main ingredient that you need to have in stock for this kind of project is patience. So we're going to start by making our dough, and then we're going to do an autolyse, which means resting the dough before you add the salt, which gives the natural yeast in our starter time to ferment and the gluten time to build very gently while it's not being agitated. And then we add the salt, we mix it up, and it rests again for another 2 hours with a fold every 30 minutes. After the first 2 hours, it goes in the refrigerator for another 2 hours to rest again and chill. After that, the dough can be shaped into whatever shape you'd like to bake it the following day. And it goes back into the refrigerator. And then tomorrow we'll take it out. It will proof one final time before it goes in the oven. And then it's gonna come out and be a beautiful, crisp sourdough boule. Can't wait. The first step in making our sourdough is mixing the dough. So we're gonna add starter to the bottom of the bowl here. Now I'm just guesstimating on these ratios based on what we do in my job. But we make much larger batches of sourdough, so like I said, guesstimating. I'm gonna start with about 1.5 cups of starter in there. Don't forget to replenish your starter if you have one. Then we're gonna do it's probably 1 cup of flour, maybe just under 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And then I'd say 2 to 3 cups whole wheat flour here. About a 70-30 ratio on the flours, roughly. And then we're gonna add some water. I'm just gonna add a little bit at first because I'm not sure how much it's gonna need to hydrate. And we'll start mixing it. Sourdough you want to mix at a low speed, and you want to be relatively moist. Gonna turn it up just a little bit.
I wake up was the evening I have always longed for. It could still happen.
Now that the dough is all mixed up, it's going to rest for 1 hour before we add the salt, the rosemary, and the garlic. Now it's been 1 hour since we made our dough, and it's time to add the salt, the garlic, and the rosemary. I'm gonna do a few healthy pinches. It's probably like a tablespoon and a half of salt here, and our garlic and rosemary. Back into the mixer. You just want to make sure that the salt is all the way incorporated. And I think it is. Because this is such a small amount of dough, it'll mix in rather quickly. And then I'm gonna do the 2-hour bulk proof with the fold every 30 minutes out here on this surface. Now we just want to cover our dough up so that it doesn't dry out at all. I'm going to use some saran wrap, and it's going to get a fold every 30 minutes for 2 hours and then go in the refrigerator.
Anyway, it's not up to you. I would never, it's not up to you. I would never, it's not up to you. Well, it never, it's not up to
Now that our dough has had its bulk proof of 2 hours and 3 turns, we're going to put it in an oiled bowl and put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours. Cover it back up and let it continue to rest. All right, after 2 hours in the refrigerator, our dough is ready to be shaped and then put back in the refrigerator overnight. We're going to be making a sourdough boule, which is a round loaf. So we're going to use this bowl to shape it. I'm going to put a little flour down on my surface first, and on my hands. We'll take our bread out. We're going to flatten it a little bit. Oh, it smells so good with that garlic and rosemary. And we're just trying to make a really nice tight skin on the top here. So, my table moves. It's hard to get this to stay put. So I'm just using my hands to do it. But you want to use a little bit of resistance from the table to help create that tight skin on top. And you want to close up this seam here by rolling it. There we go. Okay, this is better. Got a little resistance from the table, making a nice tight ball. And you can see the bottom is all closed. So, we're going to flour our bowl and the top of our bread and invert the bread into the bowl. Put a little bit of flour on top here and cover it right back up. This is going to go back in the refrigerator. Oop, that's the oily side. Here we go. We're going to put this back in the refrigerator overnight, and then it's going to come out again for one final proof before it goes into the oven. Good morning. Day 2 of sourdough bread, and I have my oven preheated to 500 degrees. I took our dough out of the refrigerator and I'm letting it come up to room temperature for at least an hour, possibly a little bit more. And one key thing that we need to do is put our cast iron in the oven so that this also gets to 500 degrees. And we need to have an oven safe lid. Ta-da! So one of the key components in making a sourdough bread is getting that beautiful crisp crust. Now that crust is achieved by adding steam at the beginning of the cooking process. So in some ovens, there's a steam button. But in cases like this, where you have a container for your bread, it will self-steam. And that means that we're going to score it so that there are little air holes that let the moisture inside the bread out, but they remain captivated inside the vessel that it's cooking in and help us achieve that beautiful crisp crust. So I'm gonna put our cast iron in the oven and let it heat up. And I would say we're about half an hour away from getting our bread in the oven. Now that we have all of our bread components at the proper temperatures, almost room temperature bread, though we don't want it to get too warm. We've got a 500 degree oven and we've got a 500 degree cooking vessel. It's time to put our bread in the oven. Steamy. Now because this is so hot, it doesn't need any oiling or anything of the sort. So we're gonna turn our bread out. Oh no, it's a little bit stuck. That's okay, as long as the skin, the integrity of the skin is intact, all will be fine. And it is. I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit more flour on top here. because it looks so nice. And we're gonna do our scores. Usually the scoring would be done with a sharp razor blade, but I don't have one of those right now. I've got a sharp knife. I'm gonna try a pattern that I saw recently of little eyelets. Okay. This goes right in here. I forgot how hot that was. Gets the lid on it and goes into the oven for 30 minutes with the lid on, and then 10 minutes for the lid off. Our bread's been in the oven for 30 minutes. It's time to take the lid off. This means we get to see what those scores did. What? Okay, so they busted open a little bit, but it looks gorgeous, and now it's time to let the top brown up a little bit. Oh, it smells so good. 10 more minutes. Our bread's had a full 40 minutes in the oven and it's ready to come out. It has to cool completely before we can eat it. Oh, lovely. This is lovely. I'm just gonna knock it out. Look at that beautiful round bottom. Ooh, hot. Put it on a cooling rack. We're gonna cut into this baby in probably another half hour. So we finally come to that time in our program where we get to taste something. Cut this baby right in half. Oh, wow. Want a close up of these bubbles? That's sourdough, baby. Mmm, the garlic and rosemary, it's just such a rich, tantalizing aroma. We've got such a nice crust on this. Time for a taste. Mmm. Yay! It's really good. Mmm. I'm very pleased. And it's worth the wait. Give it a try. It's not so hard. Thank you so much for watching today's sourdough episode. See you next time.